Taking your kids hiking can be a pain. It can be a miserable experience. How do you mitigate that, and how do you get your kids to like what you like? So obviously this is going from my own experience. I'm not a child psychiatrist. I don't have hundreds of patients or anything that I've gotten into hiking, but I do have 4 kids of my own. Pretty wide age range. The oldest is 5 years older than the second oldest, and then they're 2 years apart after that. 14, 9, 7, and 5. Just a couple weeks ago, we went on our first, what I would call, big hike, especially for the little guys. Ended up going over 5 miles. That was kind of a mistake because actually it was supposed to be a loop that was a little, maybe close to 4 miles. But the loop trail was closed, so we had to turn around and come back. And we had done some pretty decent elevation gains. There were some big hills on this hike, and so we ended up doing 5.2 miles, and that's with a 5-year-old. Now, as it so happens, I took my oldest on his first 5-mile hike when he was 5. Now, the key here is that these guys have good memories of hiking. That's ultimately what you're really trying to accomplish, is you want the kids to have a good time. You want them to remember it as a good time. But that doesn't necessarily mean coddling them either. Giving them a sense of accomplishment, letting them feel what it's like to work hard to attain something is good for them. It's good for their character, and it's good for making the hike pleasantly memorable. But I do think there are some things that we need to keep in mind as hiking parents that will sort of lower the barrier to entry into the hiking world for our kids. One lesson that I learned early on was giving them something memorable for the trip. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about a souvenir. That's usually something that you kind of get after the trip, and it's something to remember the trip by, and that's fine. But what I'm talking about is getting them something for the trip. So for example, when my family first moved back to California, one of the first things I did was start exploring Yosemite National Park. The first time I took my kids there, I was by myself. I was doing the dad thing. Mom was at work or something, and I decided to get them out of the house. Said, hey kids, we're going to Yosemite. They didn't know what that meant. They weren't that excited. But I had read that it was possible it was going to rain that day. So as we're driving up, we pull over at a CVS or something. We all get out, and I say, okay kids, everybody pick an umbrella. Well, my gosh, you would have thought I had told them we were going to Disneyland. They were just going crazy that they were going to get their own umbrellas. They loved it. Every picture we took, they all had to have their umbrellas, even when it was sunny. They just loved them. 5 years later, they still talk about that. They still remember that trip, and they still remember those umbrellas. When kids are little, it's the little things. Things like that can make a huge difference in their experience. And I like to get them something that makes sense with the trip. If you're going somewhere that's going to maybe have a cave or some dark area, get them a flashlight. And don't just get them some toy flashlight. Get them something that's waterproof, something that's bright, something that daddy or mommy would carry. One of the cool things that you could try getting for your kid for the hike would be their own backpack. But be very careful about what they put in it. They're going to load it up with toys, things that don't make any sense at all to bring on a hike. Tell them to bring like one thing with them, because I guarantee you're going to be the one carrying that stuff out. Not only are they going to get to use something really cool on their hike, but they're going to have something to keep that they're going to remember a lot longer. And it's going to increase the pleasure that they have when they remember that hike. So my number one tip, get them something cool for the hike. All right, second. Now this is probably the tip to rule them all. Snacks. I don't know what it is with kids and hiking, but they burn through food. It's unbelievable. You've got to like triple the snack intake. I don't care what you're doing for lunch, what you're doing for breakfast. My kids want to eat about every 10 minutes for an entire hike. Now you want a couple of treats, maybe take them to the store and let them pick out their favorite candy bar or something. You want to get them something to really look forward to. That's going to be kind of the payoff snack. But then you just want a lot of Munchables. Make sure that there's a good combination of salty snacks, sweet snacks, Those are going to actually help their body when they're hiking, especially if it's hot. Make sure you get drinks they like. You don't want them getting that hiker hunger and associating hiking with hunger out on the trail. They don't know where food's coming from. They don't get to control their food. They don't usually get to make decisions about their food. So just make sure you can keep those little tummies happy, and that will make a huge difference. Third, when it comes to picking your hike, you need to remember that the things that make a hike cool for you as an adult hiker are often not the things that make kids think hikes are cool. I don't mind hiking for 4 or 5 hours just for a single payoff hike. Kids, not so much. Kids are especially not impressed by numbers. I could tell my kids they hiked 5 miles or 500 miles and they'd pretty much just nod and go, okay. And when it comes to destinations, it's the same thing. If I tell my kids we're gonna go to Paris for dinner, they're gonna ask, you know, can they have cereal? So you've just gotta remember that kid expectations, the kinds of things that kids like, are often very different than what you like. So you gotta find a cool hike. Is there a creek they can play in? Is there a cave that can be explored? Are there some ruins they can run around in? This is the kind of stuff that's cool to kids. Kids typically don't like hiking for hiking's sake. And you've got to remember that when you're planning your trip. Fourth, when you're planning your trip, do not be expecting to be packing on some huge miles that day. I said earlier that my oldest and my youngest both did their first 5-mile hike when they were 5 years old. Their memories from that are pretty positive. However, those very same kids have also crapped out after 20 minutes of walking. Even my oldest, who has climbed Mount Lassen, who did a 5-mile loop when he was 5 years old, he's been on far shorter hikes than that, and he got tired and miserable really early on. So when I'm planning on hikes for my kids, I definitely try to look for some high payoff, low mileage, low elevation gain hikes that are just going to be fun. And when I say fun, I mean type 1 fun. Type 1 fun is something that's just fun. It's just a fun thing to do. Type 2 fun is something that isn't fun, but's fun to talk about later. When it comes to kids and hiking, you're looking for as much type 1 fun as you can possibly get. Gear is also essential. You want to make sure that they have the same kinds of things that you do on a good hike. You know they're going to need layers. You know that they might need an umbrella. You want to make sure that you're taking care of your kids because you're it. They don't know what they're doing. They're trusting mommy or daddy, and if you get out there, oh, I forgot sunscreen. Oh, I forgot bug repellent. Oh, I didn't think about the fact that it's going to be raining and you don't have a rain jacket. Or, oh, looks like you wore sandals and we're going to be going through decomposed granite. You need to provide them with the right gear. And this is pretty much 100% on you. If you let them get dressed themselves, they're going to probably put on a combination of pajamas and raincoats, flip-flops. It will probably be all the wrong gear. Now, I'm not saying you need to go out to REI and spend $2,000 outfitting your kids. Basically, you just want to make sure that they have a reasonable kit going out into the backcountry, because if they don't, it's going to go bad. Tip number 6, give them some things to do on the hike. Probably no matter how cool your trail is and what cool stuff it has on it, there are going to come times where you're just going to be walking to walk and they're going to get bored. And when kids get bored, they start to notice that their feet hurt and that they're hungry and that they're thirsty and that they're tired, and things can go downhill very quickly. So what I would recommend is start to teach them some trail craft. Maybe get them a compass for their cool thing. Maybe get them a map. Teach them how to navigate. Assign roles. Okay, oldest, you are the navigator. Your job is to keep an eye on this map. Hang on to that compass, even if you don't know how to use it. And tell us where we're going. I'm gonna need to make sure we're on the right trail. Now, they're not gonna know how to do that, but that gives you the opportunity to teach. And so now they have a job. They have something cool in their hand that they haven't had before, and they have something to do. My dad got my oldest son his first backpack, and it came with a couple laminated sheets that helped you identify things. And it was all the kinds of things that little boys would like to identify, like footprints and scat remains. To this day, he can still tell you the difference between bear poop and rabbit poop. And the fact that his job was to look for poop and identify it. I mean, what guy is going to say no to the role of being the poop identifier? My 7th tip is be ready to bail. Plans in case things go poorly. Now, this may not be the kid's fault. Maybe it is way too hot for hiking. Maybe it's way too cold. Probably some bottles are going to get dropped, and maybe one of them bursts and you lose half your water for the trip and you're only a quarter of the way into it. Things are going to happen when you're with kids, and you just got to smile and dig the fact that they happened on a hike. And don't just be ready to turn around and walk out. Have a backup plan. Think of something else cool that you can do that day if the hike doesn't work out. Make sure that the hike can be an absolute disaster and you're still going to have a good day. All right, number 8, if things do start to go downhill, do the same thing that you probably do as a hiker and start talking about what you want to do after the hike. Hey, you kids want ice cream? Hey, you kids want to go to IHOP? Pick a time that you know you're going to get out and tell them that if everybody makes it out on time, everybody gets a chocolate shake. Give them something to look forward to. I've gotten myself out of some tight spots by promising myself some kind of ridiculous reward when I get done. If I make it out of here, I'm going to have 2 large Baskin & Robbins shakes. Feel free to use the same tactic with the kiddos. All right, well, those are the tips that I have learned. So far, they have not let me down. I hope they don't let you down. If you've got any tips, please leave them in the comments. I still have young children. If there's something I'm missing, I would definitely love to try it out. If this video has helped you, I would really appreciate it if you gave it a like. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and click that bell notification so that you'll know when new videos come out. Till next time, I'm Doug. This is Backcountry Pilgrim. Thank you for watching.